up, everyone? Welcome to This, That, and the Other, where we talk about Detroit and MSU sports. Haven't made a video in quite a long time. I was supposed to make videos weekly, but actually my last video was before the Tulsa game kicked off. So that was before the season started, and my have things changed. Michigan State just got completely outclassed today against Penn State, and they now stand at 4-4. We're 2/3 of the way of the season. I really do apologize for not making more videos and keeping up to date with this. It's a little bit embarrassing when your last video is talking about how great Michigan State's going to be, and then the next video about how Armageddon is at our door right now. So Michigan State loses to Penn State today, 28-7. So the way I want to just kind of present this, I want to talk about the game first and then just talk about the implications later. The game, 28-7, like I said, Michigan State, they just got housed today, and it's very similar to what happened the past 3 weeks. This game today could have been a lot worse than 28-7 if that was a dry game. There was a bunch of drop passes by Penn State, and Michigan State, isn't at the level anymore where they can have a rainy day and actually have it benefit them. Good teams, if you're a good team, you can beat a better team sometimes with, if you're playing in the rain. But if you're a bad team, you can't beat anyone in the rain. This game made me lose it today. Nothing on offense to be excited about. I think they might have had 300 yards of offense, somewhere in that range. And they got down early. They got down 21-0 with the snap of, the snap of your fingers. Their defense just doesn't look anywhere as good as they should be. And their offense looks just as bad as we're used to. Injuries, there's some injuries to blame a little bit, but there's just no excuse. Brian Lewerke today, I think he didn't finish the game. You had Theo Day, Rocky Lombardi go in there, then Lewerke went back in there at the end of the game. And, I think Michigan State fans are just kind of at a loss for words right now. All I can say about the game at this point, it's the same old crap that we've had the past 2 weeks. You had a long bye week to prepare for this game, and you embarrassed yourself, and you looked like you weren't doing anything for the past 2 weeks. I don't know how you come out of a game getting housed by Wisconsin and look the exact same, but Michigan State ran the exact same plays. They made the same mistakes. They were living on the edge. They were throwing balls out of bounds. They weren't. They were getting 3-yard losses every time they tried to run it up the middle. And the passing game wasn't there. Obviously, I'll give them a little bit of a pass because of the rain. Not really though, because Penn State was still able to pass the ball effectively. And special teams were awful. The blocked field goal, I knew he was either going to miss or get blocked, or something disastrous was going to happen. And yep, field goal got blocked. I think this is so I'm done talking. I think about the actual game. I might go back to it, but this to me looks like the culmination of the shit hitting the fan and waking some people up. Hopefully, Michigan State is they got about the worst administration you can think of in terms of trying to be ahead of the curve. You get two what can you say when you get two really good coaches in there? I get it. It's really hard to think about making changes. But Mark D'Antonio, at this point, has forced them to make a change. maybe force him into retirement. And I got to preface by saying Mark D'Antonio is my favorite coach of all time in the history of sports. But, that could change. That could change depending on how bad this gets, how ugly this gets. Because this program looks worse than they did when they were 3-9 in 2016. I think they look worse than they did with John L. It's hard for me to remember that far back, but there is absolutely nothing good coming out of this season. They will be very lucky if they even get to a bowl game this year. They are a mediocre program, you guys. After this year, there's no kidding ourselves anymore. This program, is very close to falling off a cliff. And some people would argue they already have, but sometimes if you're a good coach and you've won a lot of games in the past, people will still call you a good coach if you can still have winning seasons, even if they're not great seasons. And that's where State's at. And before long, I cringe thinking about next year, you guys. Next year is going to be so ugly. This year is going to be ugly. Don't get me wrong. But if they have a new coach and they have all their talent drained, this team is going to be a below 500 team. You can almost, take that to the bank. There's nothing positive going on. It's like I said, Spartan fans like myself are at a loss right now. Their players have not gotten any better. Most of the same players that started in 2017 are still starting, and they are still just not very good. Their offensive line hasn't improved at all. Their defense has regressed. Brian Lewerke, I don't even know if he's regressed or not because he's had no help. Sometimes I think he's regressed too. Sometimes I just think it's the situation. I think it's both. I think the situation is turning him into a subpar quarterback, unfortunately. That's very sad. Brian Lewerke's a great kid, and he deserved better. Those kids at MSU deserve better. And when it comes to retaining the coaches that are not doing their job, at this point I'd say Mark is not doing his job, but, let's just talk about the assistants. Who's more important in the program, the assistant coaches or the players? It's supposed to be about the players. That's the answer. So you are absolutely cheating them out of their potential. A lot of these guys, if they had proper coaching, you'd have a lot of these guys that don't look very good, thinking about going to the NFL. And some of these players have to accept the fact that they're not good enough to go. Or if they do go, they're going to be starting from below ground level, just to get a shot where if they had the proper coaching, they'd be going in the top half of the draft, That's how much talent this team had. Now they're not getting talent. Now their recruiting classes have been gotten significantly worse, So it's just ugly for MSU right now. And it's not going to get better this season. I don't think they have a chance in hell to beat Michigan. Michigan, that adds on to this. Michigan pounds Notre Dame tonight. They're actually getting their stuff together. After a tough start to their season, now they look like they've actually learned some things and are ready to start being a competitive team. Competing for, probably being in the top 10 maybe. Who knows? But they're in a lot better position than we are right now. And, I just got to say, I think it's over for Mark D'Antonio, and I wish him the best. I hope beyond anything at this point that he does not return next year. He doesn't need to continue to make people remember him for being a stubborn old man who didn't know when to call it quits or didn't know when to fire his coach. So for his own good, for as much as I respect the man, and I do, and from as much as I respect the program, I hope that this is the end. And this, I'm not a clean house guy. I'm not the guy who is calling for people to be fired all the time. Last year I defended him. I thought he could still do the job. I still thought that, he could still show us that he's got something left. And I think his best days are behind him. His entire career, he's been on the up and up. And you look at what he did at Cincinnati, MSU, the earlier years, it's always been progressively getting better. And now it's just progressively getting worse. And it doesn't take 2 years, let alone 3 years or 4 years to figure that out. 4 years. I think if you're a head coach, this is just a general rule. Okay, the president of the United States gets reelected or elected on a 4-year basis. So I don't think there's any position in America where you can be given 4 years to prove yourself. And D'Antonio, after last year, Michigan State was at the point where they had to start proving themselves again. They lost their right to keep, to rest on their laurels. And now they have gotten back to the level where they are not as respected as they once were. They have to start making some hay again. And you guys, I just wanted you guys to brace yourselves. This year is going to get ugly, and it would take a miracle for us to beat Michigan, and it would take a little bit of luck for us to even go to a bowl game. That's where our season is at, and I think a lot of MSU fans have accepted that, and I've accepted it, and I'm ready for a fresh start, you guys. That's the only way to feel good as an MSU fan right now, is looking forward to that. And, I just hope this administration, for once in their life, will make the right choice, or maybe D'Antonio makes the right choice for them. And I want to say something about MSU before I close. Michigan State, their administration is just awful. They are not proactive. If they do a good job in one area, then they just keep talking about the one time when they did a good job. They don't continually try to raise the bar, and I don't understand it, because football is every school's biggest moneymaker. And why would you not try to improve your football program and keep having good attendance? It's good for everyone. Why don't you want to be on the level of Ohio State? Why don't you want to be an elite program year in and year out? Why do you want to just be a timeshare program, is what one of the Michigan announcers said one time, which was pretty hurtful, but I think it rings true. Why wouldn't you want to invest more in your football program and try to get to the level of these other schools? Michigan State just looks at themselves as we're a basketball school, and it's kind of nice when we're good at football too. And that's just a failing. I think that's not a failing attitude, but that's just not that's just a sedentary philosophy. You've got to evolve. You've got to try to be competitive, and you've got to try to be better even than the elite programs like Ohio State and Michigan and Penn State and Wisconsin and Alabama. And Michigan State's not doing that. I really hope that in the near future, MSU will go in that direction and try to play more with the big boys and try to actually be a brand and be something that is long term. So that's it for this episode, guys. Ran out of time. I'll talk to you later.